Welcome to Movie Time Machine, your retro movie review podcast where we take movies from the past and relive them in the present. This week's movie, The Decline of Western Civilization Part 1. Released in the year 1981, directed by Penelope Sears, Decline takes a look into the Los Angeles punk rock scene that was largely ignored by the rock music press at the time. I'm your Time Machine host, Chad, and joining me this week for the first time on the pod, longtime friend, former bandmate, roommate, and Taco Tuesday enthusiast, it's Jason. Welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, Chad. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, this is awesome. Hopefully this will be the first of many to come. So since this is your first time, why don't you just give like a what you do and we'll kind of get on with the pod. So thank you for
Awesome.
joining.
Yeah, thank you again. You and I grew up together in a small Midwestern town of 20,000 people. And I feel like we were largely influenced by the punk rock kind of, I guess, second wave of punk rock at that time, or
Yeah.
like crust punk. Yeah, we both made it out. we both made it out. We both have families, and now, yeah, I'm a sound engineer and tour manager for a bunch of bands.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, and we've our kind of personal connections to you from back in the bow, what we called it, and yeah, I kind of have some similar backgrounds, and so yeah, we kind of connected through um, largely or a weirdly large, I guess, per capita for kind of crust punks and introduced to lots of cool music in that time, and we went on to be bandmates, played some shows together. Our paths diverged a little bit. And then we ended up playing like a couple shows together in separate bands and different types of music that we've done over the years. So,
Right.
and then we were roommates at one time, and we just kind of,
Neighbors.
Neighbors, yeah,
Neighbors, yeah.
yes, yeah. We only lived like a couple blocks from one another, and so yeah, we've known each other. I was thinking, I was like, there is not many people that I know longer than I've known you that's not family. So
Right.
thank you for doing this. I'm excited to kind of talk
sure.
about some film with you, especially this documentary, Decline of Western Civilization. So before we get into our movie conversation about the film, what we usually do is just kind of give like a pick of the week recommendation, which you've been watching, playing, or listening to. And my pick this week is I've been watching Betty again on HBO. The second season just started, and the season's very short. They're only like 6 episodes each, and it's pretty cool. Enjoying the second season so far. Highly recommend it. Follows a group of female young women skaters in New York City, and that's really cool. Lots of kind of cool vibes in that show. So I really like the um, vibe of that show. So yeah, check it out. What have you been
Right on.
doing lately?
I haven't really been focusing too much on entertaining myself. I've been trying to get a lot of work stuff done. I leave for LA here soon. Um, but on my radar and on my watch list has been The Summer of Soul by Questlove.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I,
I've like a lot of people have been like, this is like the greatest music documentary ever. It kind of puts it kind of like it frames the 60s kind of 70s soul movement in such a different light than what was largely overlooked, I think, by like the Summer of Love, like Woodstock era. So
yeah, it happened in the same year, right? Like 100
yeah,
miles apart.
yeah,
Yeah, Summer Soul. We watched it last weekend. Super good. It's just amazing that the quality of footage that they had from that was just sitting in a basement for 50 years, but
oh god, what a
it's
crime.
yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's like amazing too. It's like just no one really knew about it. And I think even Questlove was saying like he had never heard of it, and like all these kind of big celebrities and music celebrities like have even people that perform there too. Like we're watching it and like had never seen any footage of it before. So yeah, that's
Yeah, I gotta watch it.
highly recommended. Yeah, you gotta check that out.
I think I'm gonna have some time here soon, so definitely on my list.
Yeah, right on. It's a good
Yeah,
pick.
sadly, I haven't been really doing much, but getting some work stuff done and taking care of hanging out with the family and stuff. So
Yeah, understandable with your big trip. So speaking of LA,
yeah,
this takes place in LA. So what we'll do is we'll just go through kind of box office and critic review scores quick. Won't take us long, and then we'll go into just general movie discussion, our thoughts on the film. So, first off, box office, it was had a budget of $100,000 estimated. There's not really a lot of info out there on that, but the movie was financed and produced by two businessmen that initially thought that they were investing in a porn film, but
Psych.
but no, not the case. And there's no box office like money that it made, but I don't think it was in theaters very long. It released on July 1st, 1981, and
Wow.
the film, I think it covers what it's like late 79, like December 79 through like March 81, somewhere in that time frame. So yeah, it's kind of a good 3 month chunk of that time and era in Los Angeles. So
Quick
just
turn. Quick turnaround too.
yeah.
July
Oh
1st,
yeah.
81 release. 40 years.
40 years. Oh my
40
god.
years.
Yeah. Jeez. Holy cow. Yeah, let's look at the ratings reviews. Rotten Tomatoes has a 100% critic score with an 84% audience score, so highly beloved by critics and individuals alike. IMDb has an average of 7.6 and Metacritic has a 93. So, all right, Jason, this is our second attempt at doing this. So, last time I think we rambled a lot about our personal experiences, but let's focus on the film this time. Um,
Focus.
focus. So, yeah, decline of Western civilization. What's your thoughts on this film, and what's kind of your history and connections to this movie?
Well, thoughts are is that it was such a groundbreaking documentary. Um, I don't think anybody had touched on anything like this before. And punk rock at the time was, it scared parents. So it like I could see where it kind of filled a void in the cultural sphere of things at that time. And plus, as we were talking before, it followed like this, the hippie movement and like the kind of like tumultuous kind of 70s. So it was a natural progression of things, I think, within like youth counterculture. That like the punk rock explosion and stuff.
Yeah, I just think of the. I was just thinking about this earlier today. Is that the a lot of I feel like a lot of modern music or punk music, alternative, all really, at least in the US, stems from this era. This is like the grassroots of it that kind of
Right.
helps it explode, and like then we get like thrash and metal kind of come to like around this time. So lots of new, cool, crazy, fast music. This is like the tip of the iceberg right here, right? So
Right. Right.
yeah, and this is kind of like a cool glimpse into just like really cool DIY punk rock that's just pretty raw. Great dive from Penelope Spheris' kind of first um, big documentary film, and yeah,
Yeah.
just a great look into that. So
It's pretty wild watching this because like Danzig had just recently had said that like punk rock wouldn't do wouldn't be the same nowadays if it had the same explosion as it did
yeah,
back then, and I think that a lot of it stems from the shock factor. I don't think the shock factor would go over so well these days.
right, right.
It scared parents.
Oh yeah,
Punk rock
definitely,
scared parents, and like
definitely.
everything at that time was scaring parents. Like hippies and like the oil embargo.
Right. Yes. Yes.
um,
Oil
uh,
embargo and hostages and
yeah, it was just like I said, it was a natural progression. I think of things like like a call and response to like what was going on in the world.
it's funny too because it kind of becomes this like even punk rock then like thrash and hardcore and all this stuff in the 80s. It's like this great juxtaposition to everything else in the 80s is kind of safe, even though like it's like fast like cocaine. You got the fasty cocaine '80s, but like as far as everyone else, everyone's kind of like I feel like a majority of the population in US in the '80s is kind of like stuffy, safe, and I don't know. Besides the cocaine, but like the punk rock and thrash and stuff like that is
Right, right.
it's hiding in American pop culture. It's
Yeah,
ready to
not
tear it apart.
yeah, not everything was a John Hughes film.
Right. Right.
16 candles.
Yeah, and some of those are kind of weird when you go back and watch them. The '80s were kind of lots of misogyny in
Yeah.
80 films.
Well, and then touching on that, a lot of the content in Decline has a lot of misogynistic kind of overtone too.
Yeah, that's one of those
Um,
things that's hard to look. I mean, you look at it and it's like, man, that's kind of just seems like a reflection of the time. Like it was everywhere.
right, right,
I mean, it kind of just like shows like how. I mean, you got to think what we're coming out of too. Like, I mean, just like with 10 years before this, you're coming like just at the peak of like the civil rights movement has just occurred. It's in like the peak of
right.
the civil rights movement, and there's all these like kind of social change and
There's like
civil unrest and
Roe versus Wade, and like women weren't even like allowed to have credit cards in their names, kind of shit.
yeah.
You
So I
know,
guess it's that I think is it's really shitty and misogynistic is also is like a good reflection of just the era. I mean, that's just the way shit was. Not to excuse it, but I mean, it
no,
was.
no.
I guess just the kind of way to show it everywhere too. So yeah, so we get there's a flurry of bands in here, but I think the first few bands we see is Black Flag and the Germs, and for me personally, this is kind of like the highlight for me personally overall with a lot of the acts in this film as far as the music goes. Like some of the things about the LA punk scene and just showing some of the different clubs and venues where they're having shows is really cool, and just seeing people dance and how it's kind of cool, like seeing how like some of that hasn't really changed a whole lot
Right.
over the years. And but
From what I read, though, they rented a sound stage, and a lot of the footage is actually like a staged show, because at this time,
really,
a lot of the clubs were not allowing the Germs and like Black Flag to play their venues because the shows were so violent.
that's right. Now that you say that, a lot of the interviews they are saying that no one, especially like Darby Crash was saying, or like their manager was saying, like no one lets them play no more because they have a reputation of being too crazy.
Right, right.
So, well, I didn't know. That makes sense though because I guess you'd probably need that to. I mean, the sound quality of the what do you call them? The performances is pretty good too. So,
Yeah,
did you
yeah.
get any insight of how that was done, or?
I think it. I think it was all a lot of it. I think it was from board, and
Oh yeah,
there's a little bit of
yeah,
post production,
yeah, yeah.
but
There's yeah,
for the time, the sound quality is actually pretty amazing.
yeah. It is.
Like it's definitely not camera, because camera would be all blown out and everything.
Yeah, it'd be just like a wall of buzz.
Yeah, we all remember filming shows with a VHS or
Right?
um, a handheld camcorder.
Yep. I have a couple of those. Um, yeah, we're trying to just record your band practices on a cassette tape
Right,
on like a
right.
really shitty boombox.
Drums and vocals were great.
The drums and vocals were awesome.
um, but I have a bunch of books that kind of highlight a lot of this era too, and
Yeah.
like Black Flag, Henry Rollins get in the van and stuff, and he does talk a lot about how like the shows were like extremely violent, like more so than what we ever even saw. You know, like
Yeah.
audience members like punching, beating up like dudes, band members, like you know the stuff that we saw in middle late 90s was nothing compared to the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. Well, and then the premiere of this movie, there was a riot that happened at the premiere of this movie itself. So just to highlight a little bit
Yeah.
more of the violent nature of the shows back then.
Yeah,
But
it's just
the footage of Black Flag and like the germs and stuff, when you watch it, it's just like it's incredible.
it's like one of those rare things, it was because at the moment you really don't know, right? This is just kind of everyone's like just like up and coming kind of really
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
they're not, these these iconic bands, that we think of today. So it's
Right,
it's really
right.
kind of it's like a cool, yeah, lens into that moment of time. So like when they're interviewing like Black Flag, when they're talking about like how much they pay to rent that, it was like an old church.
Yeah,
Whenever
the,
they
the
rent,
the
yeah, it's like,
church that they lived in and like practiced in.
yeah, they said that they paid, was it like $16 a month or something like that. So it's like I calculated that out. It would be like $52 today a month to stay somewhere. But that's a good highlight too. I think of
Right.
really of the era. This kind of bleak and dire. Everything's kind of where everything's gritty. Then like even some of the
Yeah.
interviews with God, I like when they hit their interviews with some of the individuals when they're like up on the hill with like the LA downtown LA skyline like in the background, kind of hidden in smog.
Yeah.
Um, just talking about like like just kids just they're being poisoned, and yeah, it's just everything is kind of just dark and gritty, and yeah, getting ready for the dirty 80s. But
Yeah, particularly Darby's interviews were pretty bleak. When he's making breakfast in the kitchen.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing with me is like the whole with Daria. It's like that is again like watching it. I was just going back and watching some of those scenes today, and because in some of the interviews I had listened to and read where people would um, explain like their relationships with Darby and kind of like their experiences with them, like when he wasn't fucked up, is that he
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like this funny and like smart, you know, person, but you read that and hear that, then you like watch him in this documentary and you're just like, man, this guy is really fucked up.
Right.
He's so
Well,
bad. Like,
and then also his performances. He always performed like either apparently on heroin or drunk because of he had just like so much anxiety about performing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's it's pretty bad.
Yeah. And
Also very bleak.
he died just after the filming of the footage that they. I think he died even before the release of the movie.
Yeah, but I think it was after because he's on like the cover,
Yeah.
like the largest image on the cover of like the movie or movie poster. But yeah, I think all that was done before his death. But yeah, very very tragic. I mean, just
Right.
like anytime I feel like when you have someone like suffering from drug abuse like that, but that was kind of tough to watch. But also, yeah, it just kind of gives you like the very raw nature of this documentary.
Hmm. Hmm. A little bit of trivia, and
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen all three of the declines.
yeah, I have.
You have. There's always somebody making breakfast in one of the in each one of the movies. Do you notice that?
Okay, so Darby in this one, we have Ozzy in the
Ozzy.
second one.
Yep.
Yeah, I
And the
don't remember the
third,
third one. That's awesome.
I think it was somebody from Nausea. I think it was making breakfast or something.
Oh God, awesome.
Little just inside trivia there.
Yeah. Do 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 do. All right, what else do we have here?
There's a lot to touch on. Like there, I mean,
Yeah.
uh, there's X. A lot. There's like a really good segment of X. Like there's like the Fear segment. There's kind of some of those no name bands.
Yeah, X
Like
is one of
kind
those
of.
bands that I never thought was like punk enough or something like back in the day. Like
Did
their
we had mentioned they were like the smart punk rock band?
Alice Bag band, like that. Those performances were kind of cool. That was interesting. Then you got the classic Circle Jerks,
Yep,
right? Then
yep. Keith Morris.
yes, and Catholic Discipline. That was an interesting one, isn't it? Is it the singer too from Catholic Discipline? That's he's the French guy that they're interviewing that also works
Right,
for the Slash fanzine.
right,
Yeah.
right. And which more trivia slash fanzine was run by, I think Ron Biggs, who was at the time married to Penelope Spheres or dating Penelope Spheres.
Oh.
So there's the connection between Slash and then the documentary.
So like the time that this was being made, you're
I believe
saying?
so. I believe so. Yes. Yeah.
Ah,
I think they were dated or were married for a really long time.
to end with when we go
Fear.
into Fear,
More beer.
which is speaking of Fear, like that. Those performances too are pretty. If you're gonna watch this, you're gonna need a trigger warning probably if you're the youth of today. But uh, again, there we get a little dash of
Yeah.
homophobia and yes, and that too. It's like I listened to Fear back in the day, and like I guess some of the lyrics to these songs I just never really like. I just kind of glossed over, a little bit, and going back and just thinking about it. I don't know what I even really saw in this band, but as maybe again, it's probably just more like the shock. Um,
They were
for just
like they were like jokesters. You know,
yeah,
like
yeah,
New York's all right if you like saxophones.
yeah, right. Well, so like how serious are you supposed to take it? So that's why you don't
Right,
really like,
right.
if they're being, you know, if it's a prejudice that they hold, or if it's if it's like some sort of uh parody or uh
I think a lot of it was
satire.
it was a lot of parody and satire.
Yeah,
I mean, personally speaking, I was in like a punk rock band from Minneapolis called In Defense, and like our all of our subject matter was pure satire and parody.
yeah.
We had a song called like No War but Star Wars because it was directly after 9/11 and like after Iraq and Afghanistan were invaded, and like everyone was writing like anti-war songs, and we were like, yeah, war sucks, but Star Wars is cool. Like, and like,
That's rad.
the only good thing about pizza is the crust, and that was our like our our one and only crust song. So I mean, I kind of understand where Fear kind of comes from a little bit. Um, yeah, there was just a lot of homophobia, a lot of sexism. Like they like leaving is like fighting that
Oh
female
yeah,
audience
yeah.
member.
Uh-huh.
Like, like you said, a trigger warning is like you almost need to like Penelope needs to like re-release it with a trigger warning.
And when you're talking about when was it the Get in the Van book? You're saying
Yeah,
like all like violent these shows were too back in the day. Like, I mean, could part of that be too if you're playing a show and if you're seeing like the shows that you're playing where people are getting on stage and like attacking you or attacking other members of your band, like is that just like a natural reflex of self defense then? Like
right,
if this
right.
is not justifying it, but again, I didn't really think about it that way too after you said that maybe that's like, no, this shit's always happening. You're not getting on a stage. You're not gonna
Right,
get up here and get in my face because I've seen this shit before. Like, fuck you, right? So,
right, right. I mean, like minor threat shows apparently used to be pretty violent, and then you know Ian would stop. They would stop playing, and they would like they would have to calm the audience down and stuff. And like Ian was also getting beat up a lot, but he was like very pacifist, so he
yeah,
wouldn't like. And then like when Fugazi started doing shows, like they were like super adamant about like if the show got any like even not even like I don't think it even remotely violent per se. I think it would if people just started like maybe like started the circle pit or something, or started like even getting a little bit rough, they would stop the shows. So
Wow.
I think it was just so commonplace, you know, like you just like you were like a circus performer and people like the audience like taunted the animals kind of shit.
Overall, for me, what I love best about this film too is this is like a great, you know, depiction of DIY. Like these
Right,
weren't, I mean, again, like these aren't bands that are they're not going out, they're not making a shit ton of money, like it's the passion of just like they're going to go out and play. Like no one's making the money. It's like the passion behind it. They love what they're doing. Like
right,
um that's I just love the whole like DIY aspect, and I feel like that's like just the whole like punk rock, hardcore um, ethos of DIY is something I feel like I've carried with me through my entire life, even though I've moved away from like those scenes. Like the DIY aspect of it is that culture is still kind of hung with me throughout those years. So even though I'm more of a family man now,
right.
but
No, no, I
yeah.
agree. I agree. Like, I'm the type of I'm the same way. Like, if like something needs to be done, I'll like try to figure out how to do it myself before I do get on the phone and try to call somebody.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Even what we're doing here, right? Like this
Right,
whole podcast is I'm not we're not doing it to make money. Just doing it fun and
right,
to have
right.
fun and have great conversations and talk with
Um,
friends you haven't really seen for years. So
it didn't really hit me until I read that Dave Grohl, his introduction to punk rock is when he bought the soundtrack for this movie, and then I was like, damn, like Dave Grohl, like this was his introduction to punk rock. Like, so I feel like this movie also maybe of kind of like uh got its way into a lot of kids' kind of like a lot of people like didn't know what punk rock was until they saw this movie or like they heard the soundtrack. Like,
yeah,
so I feel like it
yeah,
did kind of like and like I also said earlier, like it scared parents, and so if kids like could scare their parents, they were into it.
yeah. Let's talk about the quick. Let's so like there was the soundtrack of the movie, but for the longest time, if you actually wanted to get your hands on this movie, it was
Yeah,
very hard to get.
very
It
hard to get.
was it was like almost it was almost like mythical. You didn't know if it really existed or not.
Right.
I remember, um, you know, our old friend Sean back in the day. I remember when we would go into the old. It was called the Video Update. I don't know if you remember getting
on
movies from there.
on Central Avenue,
Yep.
we used to actually, back in the day, we were so broke ass poor that we actually rented the VCR from there too to watch movies.
Yeah.
So like, like you had to like put $100 deposit down or something, and then
Yeah.
brought the VCR home in like a giant like bag.
Like a suitcase.
Yeah,
VCR weighed like 50 pounds.
yeah. It was on Central Avenue, right?
Yeah. Or no, that
Yeah,
was Video Max, and there
that
was
was
Video
Video
Update.
Max.
It was on like the corner of like it was like
Fourth
on
and something.
Fourth and yeah,
Yeah,
like close.
Video Max was our spot.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd actually go well, anyway. We'd go to there and like see that you could order the VHS, but it was like $170 or some shit like that.
Right,
It was
right,
super. I mean that was a lot of money back then. So I mean, we weren't trying to order it. Then if you would try to order it, like you didn't know if you were going to get it, but it was kind of like this elusive thing. And um, so yeah, like this wasn't my first introduction to these movies though was the Metal Years movie and the Metal Years soundtrack. And
okay,
then I remember hearing that, oh, there was yeah, because there's a first one in the
right.
series and it was on punk. And that was just like, what? But but I remember there was like a mixtape that somebody had made for me, and after going back and like watching this, I was like, oh, this tape was somebody just recorded it like straight off the VHS
Oh wow,
onto a cassette tape
wow.
with just like the
Yeah,
music part. So
I think my introduction to this movie was a VHS burn of the movie, so it was like really bad quality.
hmm
So it
oh
kind of like
yeah,
added to the mystique a little bit.
get some like weird like sound and squiggly lines in your screen.
Right, right. But Sean was also like, because I used to hang out with his brother,
Oh yeah,
and there was always like, everyone's story was like, back in the day, I had an older brother, or older sister, or whatever, and my older sister had older friends, and that's how I got like it trickled down to me. But Sean, I used to hang out with Sean's brother. So Sean was like the older brother dude who was like the cool dude, and he had all like the punk rock and stuff.
yeah.
And he would, I was like hanging out with his brother more to hang out with him, you know.
Right. His brother, he was the conduit
Right.
to.
Um, Sean taught me my first bass lines. It taught me how to play bass for like the first bass.
Oh, man, what
Yeah.
was the first bass line?
For Whom the Bell Tolls by Metallica.
Oh yeah, of course,
Yeah.
of
Do do do
course.
do.
Do 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 do. That was
Dun
my first
dun
bass
dun.
line too. The first song I ever learned how to play on guitar though was "Silent Lucidity" by
Ah.
by Queensryche.
Wow.
Yeah, back in 1990 ish. Yeah, 1990. Oh yeah,
We are definitely aging ourselves.
we are old. Yeah, but anyway, um, so overall, so like we haven't really talked about the director though, and the other work that she has done, and probably maybe to most people might be more familiar with than the Klein movie is that she is also the director of Wayne's World,
Yeah.
which was a hit, I believe. So
That was like her that was like her I think her biggest movie.
yeah,
But she also did Little Rascals. And then
yeah, she did some of those kind of like old classic TV like rebirth films.
yeah,
Did she like do like
Beverly
the Beverly
Hillbillies.
Hillbillies? Yeah.
Yeah. Um but famously she also did Suburbia.
Yeah, which is another great movie about homeless
Yeah.
punk kids.
But also should come with a trigger warning during this
Oh
era.
yeah, there's some kind of very violent. That's a hard movie, but it's
Hmm.
it's that was for me that was like the movie Kids before Kids came out, like
Yeah.
it's
Oh my
it
god.
was pretty raw. That movie introduced me to DI and what was the other band I remember performed in that?
TSOL.
Yes, TSOL.
But the Vandals are also in it.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Crazy.
DI, yeah, that was live performance of Richard Hung himself.
That's the one that has like that's also the same has the same scene of like the dudes like ripping the clothes off the girl in the pit.
Hmm.
Yeah. But overall, it's a great movie. It's not a feel good movie though.
No,
So,
no, no.
yeah.
Might not be one to watch with the children.
No. No, might want to hold off until they're 18.
Maybe skip over that and go to Wayne's World or Little Rascals.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, that's so crazy how she started off doing. I believe Penelope started off doing music videos.
Yeah, and she did work on SNL too, I think. Producing shorts for
Hmm,
comedian Albert Brooks,
okay.
being highlights in the first season of SNL.
Yeah.
Then did Decline, then follow up with Suburbia.
Dudes.
Oh, is that the
It's the
is that like
where
Johnny Depp and no.
no, it's
Um
Another one with Flea in it.
John Cryer.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because Flea's also in Suburbia, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Flea's also like the dude that's been in like every band, I feel like.
Right. Flea. He's like Dave Grohl. He's in everything.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, she also did Black. Penelope also did Black Sheep.
No way, really?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
dude, I know,
Damn.
right? I know. That's a classic movie, man.
Oh yeah. That was really good. Yeah, some of these I haven't seen The Boys Next Door. It's Hollywood Vice Squad with
um,
music by Keith Levine of Public Image Limited.
yeah. No, like she, in
Yeah.
terms of in terms of bringing punk rock kind of like to like the forefront and like almost like making it a little, she probably like made it a little mainstream, or just like at least broke it from the underground and kind of like brought it a little bit to the mainstream. With like a lot of her movies are based on punk rockers and stuff, you know.
Yeah,
And if you
like
even if you look at Wayne's World, I know that was just SNL skit at first, but it was just like two dudes that like did like a cable access TV show in their basement, and like,
DIY baby.
yep, exactly. And like that movie, I mean, when you go back to it, it doesn't like, it's not like one of those movies where you're like, oh god, this movie was so terrible and I thought it was so good. It's actually still pretty good. I feel like it's still pretty good.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years since I've seen it, but I do remember I didn't watch the whole thing, but it was just on and checking it out, and yeah, I thought it had aged well.
It's aged well. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a few pieces of it that are like a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
reflects the era a little bit.
Right.
So that leads us to like some more trivia about Penelope Spheres. She was actually recruited to do Spinal Tap, but she didn't want to make a mockery out of you know musicians and music in general. She was more trying to, I guess, until Wayne's World. But yeah, she was recruited to do Spinal Tap, and she declined it.
No, I'll just say like it just kind of some of like the interviews that I've seen with her or with director Penelope Spheris is that she's like very serious, like when she kind of talks about like the work that she was doing, and like
Right,
also
right.
talks about like she didn't have much, like growing up, and she was what like in her she like in her 40s, no 30s, but she's
I
like she's wasn't like
feel
young when she.
she was in her 30s because she's in her 70s now.
Yeah. Yep. That makes sense. Do the
Yep,
math.
yep. She was very serious, I feel, and also she got burnt out from Hollywood really badly from doing like Wayne's World and stuff, and like all the like, Little Rascals and Beverly Hillbillies. Um, she kind of had a backlash against Hollywood, from what I heard in a couple different interviews.
Well, it kind of sounds like too that she was just like she got all this money from it and was just kind of like, I have all this money. I don't know, what to do with it. I've never had this much money before in my life, kind of thing. So
Right. I feel like she saw a lot of shit probably that was going on in Hollywood, and she kind of rejected it, and I feel like she just kind of moved away from Hollywood
hmm
altogether.
yeah.
From and I like the interview I heard from a while back that she did with dude man from Fucked Up. I forgot what the podcast is called. She said that
Oh,
like you said, she made a lot of money really quickly, and then she didn't know what to do with it all, and then so she just decided to kind of retire from Hollywood, and now she's a real estate investor.
yeah.
So she like builds like houses and stuff.
Yeah.
She like, it's almost like a maybe like a design and build kind of contractor. which is really
Oh,
weird,
yeah. Right on.
but good for her. Turned out a the podcast is called Turned Out a Punk.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. You shared that with me a while back. All right.
Yep, yep. And it's the dude from Fucked Up. Darian, I think is his name from Fucked Up.
Hmm. Is that a
Great punk.
band? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a punk rock band from Toronto. She also did a movie called "We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll," which was a documentary that focused on
Ozfest, wasn't it?
Ozfest. Yep, and due to the fact, so there was a bunch of it never got released because Sharon Osbourne apparently wouldn't sign off on the rights to any of Ozzy and Black Sabbath's like likeness and music, so it just never got released.
What?
Yep.
But it finally did though, right?
No.
No,
No.
really? I thought I. No way, really?
Yep. Was never released.
Man, that's depressing.
Also cringeworthy though.
Oh, have you seen it?
Yeah, there's bootleg versions of it on Vimeo.
Oh, that's okay. That's where I've seen it. Never mind.
Yep,
Maybe you
yep.
shared that with me. All right.
I
That's
did. I
that's
think I
where
did
I'm
share it with you. Yeah.
getting my wires crossed. But yeah, legal. Da, 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 da. Legal issues delay the release. Documentary received mixed reviews. What's aged the worst, Jason?
I don't. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that didn't age really well. Um, I mean, it's like Pat Smear was probably in his 20s when this came out because he's now in his 60s.
Hmm.
And he said that like there's that part where he says he hates women, so that's why he hits them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, Pat. Ouch. But just the overall, I think there was like some overtones and of like homophobia and sexism and racism and stuff. Like,
Yeah, about the dead painter.
yeah, they're calling the painter a wetback.
Yeah.
And then like he fell off a ladder and he died, and they just didn't do anything about it. Or like, wow, like okay, that didn't age really well.
No.
That,
Yeah, then there's
that
like
did not.
the skull helmet swastika
Yeah.
thing. Then I don't know if you remember me sharing this with you a while back, but those replicas, or I showed you that I found one on eBay,
Oh no.
but it looked
Of
like it was like a
course.
cookie jar.
Oh God.
God. Nazis, they need their cookies.
Yeah. Um, Ron Reese, the then singer of Black Flag, when they were in the church, when they were doing like the scenes of them at their church practice space slash
Mhm.
house, whatever, he said that he showed them his closets and then stating his girls as his victims. That's like another one of those like God.
Yeah.
There was just no filter back then,
No. No.
There was no filter at all.
No. Pretty raw.
Pretty raw, but and like again, not excusable, but at the same time, it just kind of highlights the era.
Yeah, so I actually had a question I wanted to ask you before we close this out. Is it so? I always look at back at this and see like like these are kind of like outcast, and these were people that for some reason didn't find other things and other things that maybe were more popular, or like what you're supposed to do in life, like go to school, then get a job or whatever, go to college. And same with us too, like growing up, like there's some things that were in our lives that impacted kind of like our draw to like this music and this kind of life as well. Do you think that it's easier for kids today to get into this shit, like that's more available to them, like that you're not um let me see, I'm trying to pick the right words here, like if you don't fit the kind of status quo popular, you know I guess ideals, of American life, that if you want to kind of live on the outskirts of that, like do you think those things are more accessible today? because of like the internet and social media, and like there's more of a place that you can
Def-
find people versus like just knowing like the few people in your town, you know.
definitely feel like but I feel like it's made like subcultures and countercultures a little bit harder to almost be accepted because it's not like the cool thing anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I feel with social media.
Just like counterculture in general, whatever it would be like.
Right, right. It's like too many people are obsessed on like what some influencer is doing, or like what, like
Right.
it's like, I guess back in the day, our only access to stuff like this was through like movies and television and like news, like, or like magazines and fanzines and stuff. And now kids have just like so much more access to like, you know, just like so much more hitting them
Hmm.
per se. Like
So
like
maybe
we
there's greater exposure to it, but that in a way kind of devalues the things
Yeah,
that are you're accessible to because there's so much of it.
right, right. Like I feel like we had to seek it out more.
Right. And we experienced new things, heard new things through like our relationships with
Right,
other people. Like we like say you'd have like a group of friends, but like you'd have like your kind of other satellite friends, you know, that didn't know this one group of friends. So you kind of share from outside of your circle and bring that in and
right.
trade stuff and talk about new things. And I feel like there was always something new to talk about because it was things would always kind of slowly trickle into you,
Right.
into like the other people, you know.
Well, it's like music too. Like nowadays, it's so easily shared, and like back in the
Yeah.
day, like you had to make a mixtape. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
You had to.
I also feel like things are more commodified. Like things are
Oh
more.
yeah, you're right.
It's more like back in the day, it was more of like, it wasn't about money, and it wasn't about like, I guess, popularity. I feel like it was more of like, oh man, you should check this band out. Nowadays it's like, oh, I have this Spotify playlist.
Mm,
I
yeah.
don't know, it's just I feel like the world is really weird these days.
Yeah.
nothing
It
nothing
is.
seems nothing seems organic, you
That's
know
well said. Well said. Well said. Everything is super like curated,
right, right,
homogenized,
right.
you know, like there's a lot of things, but there's not a lot of I feel like there's not a lot of diversity in like any content or entertainment or
But there's such like a emphasis to be diverse, but I feel like it's forced,
yeah.
in a
Yeah.
way. Yeah, again,
Yeah.
it's not organic. Nothing's like
Yeah.
organic anymore.
Yeah.
I don't feel like anything is sincere.
Yeah, it's just something to talk about. Yeah, you want to do, but when it comes down to like the brass tacks, you know, it's like it's
Yeah,
there's nothing. Yeah, it doesn't feel like real or genuine.
right, right,
It's just to meet some sort of like corporate goal, or you want to sound good on your Insta,
right. Yeah. Or your
get more
TikTok.
likes, your
Yeah,
TikTok.
your TikTok.
Oh my god, TikTok. Cool.
It's like it's weird. We're gonna be like, 20 years from now, we're gonna be watching documentaries about how like Instagram like ruined everything or something. There's also
I believe I maybe I'm too much of an optimist on this, but I just my knowledge of history is that things tend to like ebb and flow, right? There's
right,
always a backlash. And I feel like there's going to be a backlash to having your life available for everyone to see.
right. I
You
kind of
know,
agree.
like I think there's going to be a backlash where people are going to like kids coming up are going to want to have some privacy, man. They're going to want to have more organic relationships and not just people, you know. not just digitally on your phone, like real
Right.
organic relationships. And but yeah, that's just me
Less
being optimistic.
less likes.
Yeah, less likes.
Cool.
But yeah, I did want to ask really quick, not to get too nostalgic, but since this is a documentary on punk rock, what was your first punk rock show?
First punk rock show was at the warehouse in Faribault, and I don't really remember the full lineup, but I know that Groundwork was like the closer
Hmm,
or headliner, if you will.
God, they ruled.
And I want to say like Pillar or Rain played, but I think Pillar was before Rain.
I think it was Rain.
And yeah, I
Yeah,
still have the tape. I still have my tape. And I don't know if it was Threadbare or not, but it was at the warehouse, and it was with Sean and his brother Brent. And which is funny is like I was so broke, and we were pretty poor kids. I think we went to Walmart and bought a Sharpie and an X our hand. It was we noticed everybody had X's on their hands
yeah,
to get in, and so
yeah,
we just went to Walmart. Was like right behind, you know, the warehouse there,
yeah.
off of like it was like what West Division or something like that.
Yep, it was on
And
the west side of Faribault.
yep. And so we just went and bought a Sharpie and put X's on our hands and got into the show for free.
Oh, it's so rad. It's so rad. Yeah,
But
it's
I
I
was
think
that nine.
Snapcase was the other. It was
Was it Snapcase? No way.
yeah. Yep.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It was
Crazy.
yeah, crazy because that band blew up.
Yeah.
Case.
It
I'm trying
did.
to think what tour they were on. They just released Looking Glass Self,
Okay.
I think. Or but no, it must have been before that. I think it was the summer of '93 that stuff went down.
Was it 93?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have been like 13 then.
Yeah. The summer of '93.
Progression through unlearning was like my jam.
Nice.
Yep.
That's a good album.
But weird though, because that snare, man, I don't know, man, that snare drum,
A little too tinny for you?
little too boingy.
Boingy. Boing. Boing.
And so what was your first punk show?
It was I was just trying to look it up. I can't remember. I think it was Youth Brigade. I can't remember if it was Youth Brigade or Youth of
Ah,
Today. And it
I,
was
I, I yeah, I think you said yeah. I think you were saying Youth Brigade.
yeah, and it was at the old at the time it was called DeRemley Studios. It
Mm-hmm.
was kind of kitty corner from the Triple Rock when that was still
Mm-hmm.
around, and it was
Mm-hmm.
on the same block as what was
Red
that?
Sea.
Red Sea. Yep,
Yep.
yep, yeah. That little bar. There was some cool shows I saw there too. But yeah, it was
Rest in
youth.
peace. Rest in peace, Trip Rock. Yeah.
Yes, rest in peace. But I remember, yeah, it was before they had like the soundstage and stuff built onto the Triple Rock. It was just
Yeah.
like that single
The single bar.
single bar, the old biker bar. But yeah, it was Youth Brigade, and I remember Crawl Space opened
Okay.
up
Yep.
for him, so which
I
ended up
remember them.
turning into Disembodied
Yep.
back in the day. So yeah, I remember that was I got my tooth chipped at that show. So that's still a living long reminder of I want to say that
Memento.
was like a 92. I went to that show.
Wow.
So 92 or 91, but yeah, a lot of fun. That's awesome, Jason. Thanks for doing this. We got it
Yeah,
done.
man.
I think we focus a little bit more on the film this time and the director, and hopefully we'll get to do this more. I want to wish you safe travels
Yeah.
when you
Thank you.
head out to LA. It's a long flight for you, and yeah, hope you're doing well and your family's doing well. So thanks for taking time to do this.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Likewise.
Before we go, I want to thank you for downloading this episode of Movie Time Machine. Remember, new episodes will drop on Fridays. please send your questions, comments, and feedback to movietimemachinepod@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter @moviemachinepod. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time. See you later. Bye.